Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CAL FIRE Office of the State Fire Marshal Fireworks and Explosives Training. My name is Kara Garrett, and I will be available for technical this training. This training will last about 2 hours, and it will be recorded and shared at a later time with the slide deck. Please type any questions into the Q&A portion of your screen and complete the sign-in sheet that is linked in the chat. After the presentation, we will be holding a question and answer session. And should you encounter any issues during the presentation, please give me a call at 916-201-5539 or send me a text. Or you can also send me an email at kara.garrett@fire.ca.gov. I will now turn it over to Chief Gouget to introduce the team and get.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know that everybody's time is precious, so thank you for joining us. This is kind of a first reach out as we approach the 4th of July season. We wanted to try and get some training out there and maybe reach some of those of you that are responsible for fireworks enforcement within your agencies, whether you have new personnel that need the training or whether this is a follow-up to get us ready for the 4th of July season. We wanted to present this to you. So thank you for joining us. Arson and bomb investigator Gershom Slonim will be walking us through the presentation. And again, if you have questions specific to your agency or after this presentation, there'll be some Q&A afterwards for us to address. So Gershom, if you want to move forward, thank you.
You are muted. Gershom, go ahead and unmute yourself. Yep.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Gershom Slonim. I'm an arson and bomb investigator for the Office of the State Fire Marshal. And there's been overwhelming requests for training and just information about our program in general. So this is one of our first iterations to reach out and get this done. So. That's me. 14 years in law enforcement, 10 years in Air Force EOD, graduated the FEI's Hazardous Devices School, and recently completed my Master of Forensic Science in Arson and Explosives Investigation. And this is what the Arson and Bomb Unit does. We conduct law enforcement criminal investigations for mostly the penal codes related to arson and explosives and illegal fireworks, pyrotechnics, and the prohibited possession, use, import, export, smuggling. And even last year, we encountered some flamethrowing devices. And we're the only unit that has statewide law enforcement authority and full-time explosive specialists, and we can assist anywhere in the state where we're needed. Our full-time detectives, we don't have any patrol or fire suppression duties, so we can focus primarily on our investigative roles. And all of our members have prior law enforcement and bomb squad and military EOD experience. So one of our biggest hurdles is notifications and just letting people know that we exist and what our responsibilities are. Our primary responsibility is to respond to all fires and explosions on state property. And in California, there are over 30,000 state-owned and operated facilities. So thankfully, those properties don't have problems all the time. And towards the bottom of this statutory obligation is helping jurisdictions that don't have investigative resources, or there's something that falls out of the span of control of an agency. So there's a big incident where everyone's taxed and they say, hey, I just need some extra help. I have a huge fireworks seizure. What do I do? So we like to get our name and our contact info out there because we have a team of specialists out there that we can, any time of day or night, go to where you're at. If there's something unidentified or you just need an extra set of eyes on something, even if it's an accidental fire up in Northern California or wherever, that's where I normally get my calls. We'll be there as soon as we can if we're available. That's we may respond. So. And another part of it is testifying in court as a subject matter expert in explosives. So anytime you make an arrest or have a case where there is some type of suspected explosive or anything like that, when it comes time in court for someone to make a determination on something like that, it all falls on training, experience, education, and the types of cases you've been working in the past. So our investigators have tremendous experience doing these types of investigations, ranging from normal homemade explosives, military ordnance, and even domestic terror incidents. And our members help draft laws. So even as of last year, there was a law that came out that I've seen the words of the law that members of this team have put our brains together and figured this stuff out. And obviously we don't know everything. At least I don't know everything. I can reach out to other professionals, subject matter experts with the ATF, FBI, and anytime I can help you find an answer if I don't know. And here's the northern team. It's me there, second from the left, and then Chief Gouget is on the far right. And that Station 94 picture is from the Moores Riverboat investigation in Isleton, California, where Raleigh Bird burned down the Moores Riverboat, and we went to serve that search warrant out there. Down in Southern California, we have Investigator Schroeder, which is on left with Canine Flash, and Investigator Elder, who has Mocha, short for Mocha Chocolate. So, and these are some of the things that we can provide to local and even other state agencies that need it. We have trifold folders that you can put in your response vehicle and give you information about licensing. And like I said, one of the biggest things that we can do is provide, at moment's notice, we can get resources rolling to large fireworks seizures. One of the biggest ones we've done up in the northern area is San Jose. It was 40,000 pounds of illegal fireworks that were involved in a fire and explosion at a storage facility. And we were able to get out there within a few hours, even getting trucks and other resources going. And then identifying potential explosives in the field, as simple as sending an email or just a text picture can get a team of eyes on it, even back east to the ATF explosive specialists, and they can help us make a determination to keep everybody on the front line safe. And one of my biggest accomplishments was the statewide fireworks seizure form, because it used to be like a paper format. So I digitized that with our comms team and everybody like that, and we're able to make it to where every seizure that is reported to us is tracked electronically, so things aren't getting lost and we have more accurate numbers. And we can provide expanded training. Like, this is just an awareness level training. We can go to you depending on the need, and get more in depth depending on the history of responses and stuff like that. And if you want more resources or more information about our different programs in fire engineering and investigations, these are the links. This whole presentation is being recorded, and you'll be able to have access to these links. And next, we're going to talk about a little bit more in detail about our different programs, other than arson bond. So when something bad happens, people like to make changes, because one of our main goals in public safety is to analyze things and make sure that they don't happen again. Like, why did this happen? So with this, we like to test our products and fireworks to make sure that they meet national guidelines. And even the national guidelines, there are certain jurisdictions in California that it doesn't matter, that we need to protect our communities from fire. So the fireworks program is able to get all these people licensed for importing, exporting, even making fireworks in some places in California, and licensing their pyrotechnic operators for big shows like Disney and Universal Studios and stuff like that. And there's specific training that everybody has to pass. So that is a method of quality control. And we're able to know who's operating in and around the state. And Caleb Phillips is the point of contact for that. If you want to reach out to him, if you have any questions, email him. And one of the cooler ones is the Hollywood job. Vijay Mapani, he works on that. And this is all out of created out of, there was a fatality of an actor back in 1987. So accidents happen. People like to make sure that things don't happen again. And that's why we have a resource dedicated to that, because we want to keep everybody in the motion picture industry safe as well, because they're going to be doing this stuff anyway, and that brings in a lot of revenue potentially. And there's VJ's contact information. If you need to reach out to him, there's his phone number and email. And one of the biggest questions we have is, how do you verify license status? So we have this on our public facing portal. So GovModus, you just plug in the name, and it'll be able to tell you right away if somebody is operating illegally, because it has everything listed out. Even the one on here is it's public information, so it's an easy way for authorities having jurisdiction, local fire marshals, and everybody, fire chiefs. Hey, I have my iPad with me here, and I punch in everything and move on to the next. Everything's all good. They're not smoking. They're not storing things incorrectly. And that's a great way for our local partners to do that. And it gives you that capability to cross-reference what is state approved. So you have all these different companies that are authorized to operate in California, and what the items are listed to be able to sell. And GovModus is that quick and easy way to verify that. So this is the State Fire Marshal seal for safe and sane fireworks. Just based on how something looks, you can quickly make a determination, if it's like a mortar tube or something like that. It's obviously illegal, but when you get into the smaller ones that are questionable, all you got to do is look for this registered seal. And then on the bottom where it says CSFM registration, there's a unique number there that can be verified. Sometimes I've seen these are fraudulent. So if there's a question, if they're not in GovModus, you put in their name or business name or anything like that, then you can note down those numbers and ask Caleb or even me, hey, is this legit or not? So it's just that reach back capability for those out in the field that can have that. And it's any time of day or night too. If you come across a huge amount, hey, is this okay? And we're there to help if we can. And these are extremely common all throughout California. I see them in every fireworks seizure box in different conditions. So you can buy these year round, and it also depends on your jurisdiction. So there are jurisdictions that say, no, you can't have this either. But they're still supposed to have the fire marshal seal with a specific number on the bottom. Fun fact about these is that they contain a high explosive called silver fulminate, and there's silver fulminate impregnated rocks inside those little bags, and when you throw them down, they collide with each other and they actually detonate. So it's pretty neat, but yeah, it is a high explosive in a very, very small quantity. I think it's about 80 micrograms on those. And these are actually very dangerous, and I'll tell you why. It's the same or similar composition as the other ones. So it's basically a friction or shock initiated explosive. And these can get up to, I don't know, about the thickness of your pinky. And these things, they crack pretty nicely, and they are illegal. So if you see these, the main takeaway I can give is these are dangerous for the first responders transporting fireworks or seizing fireworks, because if you have your seized fireworks in a large container, box, bag, or anything like that, and there's loose powder inside that bag or box, and you have one of these snapper boxes or a couple loose snappers, several loose snappers on the bottom, and they rub together with a friction, then they're going to cause an explosion and fire potentially. One time when I was unloading a large shipment, I had a couple of these adult snappers fall out and they cracked off. So it is possible, and there was we get fireworks seizures in all different conditions, so we have to do it as safely as possible. So luckily we have everything in place to mitigate that, so we don't process and store our fireworks in the same location. So if you're initially looking at fireworks, to make sure that these snappers are not in larger boxes or bags, do it away from different or the larger amounts stored, so that if something does happen, it's a smaller amount and you can mitigate it. And then we like to put the snappers together and in smaller quantities so that they don't explode on us. And getting into Title 19 and the health and safety codes, essentially Title 19 and these different organizations work together to create standards for fireworks like fuse length, fireworks that won't tip over, and then the amount of explosives that can be inside, or pyrotechnic composition that can be inside, which is 50 milligrams, which for a size comparison, that's smaller than a penny, like a capsule, smaller than a penny. So all that together helps us build the health and safety codes on why things are uh, considered dangerous fireworks. Or different chemicals, different compositions. That in California they are illegal, even though they're illegal in other states. California has a higher standard for fireworks. And then a lot of these codes, if not all these codes, rely on the Title 19 and then different federal standards as well, like Title 18 US code for definitions. And the recent fires, injuries, and deaths that happen, they're all avoidable. And we see that in the different laws that are coming out related to fireworks and explosives. So the different law changes that happened in the last few years were based on input from our office and even our investigators and public input as well. So it helps us help you by providing training like this, funding, education, all that, to where local jurisdictions and even other state agencies have an easier time enforcing these policies and laws, and we have an easier time getting rid of these fireworks once they're in our custody. One of the biggest things is they doubled the fines last year. So, I mean, possession of different amounts of fireworks will hit somebody with $100,000 fine potentially. So, I've even seen jurisdictions like Woodland Police Department hitting people is like 100,000 per violation, which is good deterrent if you ask me. And then illegal fireworks, I just think of it as type by function. Like if it looks like a rocket, like it's going to shoot in the air, aerial shells, the bulbous things with a fuse sticking out of them, firecrackers. But we like the explanation of anything that explodes, goes into the air, or moves on the ground in an uncontrollable manner. Those types of things are more likely to cause injury, death, and fires. And these are some examples, just looking at them. You know, they look like rockets. And the one on the bottom left corner, it has a stick and it has a little bulb on top. So just think of the stick as like a stabilizer for a rocket. So that rocket's going to shoot up, and then if it doesn't have that stick, it's just going to wobble. So they want to try to keep it stable as it shoots in the air. But yeah, if it looks like that, it's probably illegal. But if you have questions, reach out to us. And these, I've seen these a lot on YouTube and different Instagram videos of people shooting these candles. And an easy way to know if something's illegal by reading the package. A lot of them say it says shoots flaming balls. That's a huge clue on, hey, this is illegal. Or do not hold in hand. That's another big one. Because it explodes, that's why. And they don't want you blowing your hand off. And these are aerial shells of varying sizes and types. The soda can looking one is a very common one. Excalibur, I think I see more Excalibur than anything else. And so these items on the top left are referred to as aerial shells. The items on the bottom left and top right, or no, bottom left are mortar tubes. And then on the top right are cakes. So cakes are just basically a bunch of these glued or sewn together to where they can have a fuse running all throughout them, and then they do a certain pattern based on fuse length or anything that the manufacturer can dream up. They can make different cool patterns. So one question I get a lot is about what's the difference between 1.4 and 1.3. And 1.4 aerial shells are generally less than 2 inches in diameter, and they have happy consumer oriented packaging. So it's, as you can see, these ones on the top left are bright, colorful. The ones in the bottom middle, it's meant to grab people's attention. So, and it's people that want to spend several $100s on these fireworks. The brown boring packaging, which I'll show you a little bit later, can lead you to believe that it's more of like a professional or homemade improvised explosive device. We had a home in Kings County where they were manufacturing illegal destructive devices and stuff like that. So there was a child actually in the room where they were making explosives. And these are usually the one on the left, the red one. It's commonly mistaken for a destructive device. I've seen some cases where someone will charge a felony for this, and then later on, you have to let them know, no, this is not a felony item. This is a regular consumer product. The actual explosive amount inside that is the small, likely around 50 milligrams of pyrotechnic compound, but then it's surrounded by spacers or inert filler or something like that. So a lot of these are just meant to capture the consumer's eye and say, hey, this is the biggest and best firework, pay more for it, but it actually still has the same amount of pyrotechnic composition. So these are kind of common sense things. If you modify fireworks from their original intended use, then you're creating extra risk because all these powders and compositions are sensitive to heat shock and friction. So by cutting something open, you're submitting it to friction by cutting it, and even stuff like radio waves can set off different items. So because of electromagnetic radiation, EMR. So we see misuse of fireworks in the civil disobedience and protests. I even saw it last week in the Bay Area. There was a aerial shell that was thrown in a crowd, and then there was in Portland, Oregon, a couple years ago, there was one where they were using aerial shells with nails glued to the outside. So these items are deadly risks on their own, but when you start adding and intentionally deploying them at people, that increases that risk. And I had a shipment of 33,000 pounds in the Sacramento area that we helped take care of, and that was Outlaw Motorcycle Gang, black market sales type, and they paid $30,000 cash for the product. So it was around $1 a pound, and you can see the online sales of this stuff, and usually quadruple your money. So it's a lower risk than selling drugs or other nefarious activity. But when we get note or people tip us off to it, then we can get on them pretty quickly. So it's a definitely community effort for getting this stuff taken care of. And in California, we care about the environment a lot. And one of the biggest reasons why we have more stringent fireworks laws is because California is perfect for wildfires. And if we have items that shoot up in the air or go on the ground uncontrolled. And, you know, one of the biggest things also is just the risk of serious injury or death from the proximal use of it. So that's close to the body and stuff like that's already a huge issue. We have people every year that are part of our webinars and even our in-person events that they have missing hands and they're maimed for life. And it's a sad thing to see, and it can all be avoided if people just go to normal shows and or sanctioned events. We've seen deadly fires from gender reveals, weddings, all kinds of things like that, where it just gets out of hand real quick. So leave it to the professionals and prevent fires. And this is one of our biggest pushes too, is it's not only one thing, it's a multifaceted approach. And, you know, fireworks, seizures, that's only a dent in it. So we want to prepare by getting your house ready, you know, making sure that all the vegetation around your house is defensible, and have a go bag and a plan with your family on what to do if there is a fire. Because these aren't just here for, you know, arbitrary reasons. Like this stuff actually works. Chief Berlant was on the road yesterday, and I saw him actually burning a structure, and with the home hardening and defensible space, it actually made a huge difference in the fire spread, and the house was still standing, which I thought was awesome. And this is one of our responsibilities, but it has a lot of impact. So we respond to fires and explosions all throughout the state, and we get calls for fireworks and explosives pretty frequently as well. And we're still collecting data for, you know, how much all this stuff costs and how many injuries and deaths have occurred. But since I rolled out the electronic fireworks seizure reporting form, we have taken in over 438,000 pounds of fireworks, which breaks down to approximately 624 pounds a day, 4,371 pounds a week, 19,065 pounds a month, and 228,000 pounds a year. And most of that is from local agencies. This product or these products, they cost $1 wholesale to buy, and they usually quadruple their profits or make 5 times their profits. It costs the state over $20 per pound to get rid of this stuff. And that's just for 1.4, the consumer. So it can be up to, I think, $30 per pound for the professional stuff that we seize. So this is a huge issue, and just with what the local jurisdictions are doing mostly, we're at, to date, 438,515 pounds. And I checked that yesterday. So fireworks are used in a lot of different ways, and it's not just people in neighborhoods starting fires and blowing their hands off and stuff like that. They can actually be used in terrorist incidents. They buy the fireworks legally in jurisdictions that allow it, like different states over, and they harvest the propellant and fillers and stuff like that, and they put them in other devices, which instead of making homemade explosives, they have the explosives readily available to produce that. And in civil unrest, aerial shell thrown at officers or firefighters or anything like that, that is a deadly threat. We've had local jurisdictions reach out and they said, hey, what health and safety code violation is it for possession of a dangerous firework? We get more into it and they say it's not just possession, they use it as a weapon, so that it's assault with a deadly weapon by throwing a lit firework at somebody with the intention to harm them. And the Boston Marathon bombing was from harvested pyrotechnics. And yeah, there have been some other recent ones as well. This is one of our seizures. Just shows you the scale of what this stuff looks like all laid out, and just how huge California is. This is a small dent. 40,000 pounds is, just 1/10 of what we have seized to date. So going through the seizure form and choosing which product is the proper one. The one on the left, that's what you're going to see, say 90% of the time. And then you'll see these brown boring packaging items every once in a while, because they're obviously harder to get, they're more expensive. But I do see people trying to light these. I do see people selling these sometimes. And it's just as easy as, hey, is it nice and shiny? Does it look like a consumer would buy it? Or is it something where it says, if you zoom in on these, it says for professional use only. That's a clue too. And it says, if found, call police. You don't see that on these other brightly colored consumer products. So, and handling, one of the biggest things I can say is just treat them with a respect, because a lot of injuries to first responders are because of mishandling pyrotechnics. And when we get these, sometimes I see like Roman candles, they're split in half and the powder is spilled all in bags or boxes. So just be careful with that, because you're exposing yourself to risk. Yeah, because if I see it, I can mitigate it. But if somebody who's seizing fireworks says, well, I want to fit more fireworks inside of this bag or box, why don't I break it down? Well, the reason why you don't break it down is because you don't want to spill powder. And then if there are other poppers in there, then you're creating a risk in your evidence locker, and you're creating a hazard when you are transporting it. And that's what we don't want to have happen, is somebody who's doing this, trying to help the community, and then they get injured or killed because they're mishandling this stuff. And heat, don't leave them in the back of your vehicle for an extended period of time, especially down the Central Valley or down south. Because once those temperatures skyrocket, you don't know how happy or mad these items are. So you want to keep them as happy as possible, as cool as possible, and call us as soon as you can so we can have you drop them off. And these bigger ones, like the 1.3, don't drop them. I mean, don't drop anything, but more so these larger items, because they're kind of, they have a harder shell, and when you drop them, well, that force transfers to the powder inside, and you don't know who made it, what the quality control is, so just don't do it. And friction is a big thing too, and that kind of goes along with the spilling powders or breaking things open. When you walk on a rug and you shuffle your feet with socks on and you go touch something metal, it shocks. So there's a little spark that's like your piezo on your stove or grill. So that can actually initiate these static sensitive explosives, which all these powders are susceptible to static and friction. So don't be shuffling your feet around on powder for making that friction, because that will generate heat and potentially initiate your powders. And I've seen this sometimes in magazines when we're helping people clear out. I say, hold on, stop. That we're standing on some powder. let's clean it out. And, there's no harm in stopping or slowing down an operation to keep it as safe as possible. And we support this. We want people to enforce the law, and how we come into it is by offering our support if you have larger seizures and stuff like that. To it's that incentive to go out there and say, hey, if I go and enforce this, then I'm going to have the backup on, to go pick up all this stuff, and it's not sitting in my evidence locker for a long time, just collecting dust and deteriorating. So the earlier it's reported on this format, this is the QR code. If you take out your phone and uh, snap a picture of this, or you want to keep it in your rig, you can. And I can even give you a step by step if you need it later on. And yeah, it's a 1-page form, and it helps us track, and it doesn't go off of our screen until we pick it up. So there's a little blip on a map saying, hey, such and such agency has these items ready for pickup. And then we usually like to do, I call it a fireworks safari. I go around different areas in the state, and I schedule 3 or 4 agencies in the same day, and we can pick up all agencies. Or if there are agencies that can drop off fireworks, that's even better because we can fit that into our schedule a lot faster. So it's working together and just understanding, we the arson bomb unit can't do it all on our own. And just like smaller agencies and even medium-sized agencies, they can't do it on their own. And we can come and help at potentially a moment's notice. And there's another safety issue I've seen is some of these items have made it into evidence and are purported as fireworks. So all these items are various stages of destructive device manufacture and employment. So in the Kings County house, there was gray powder, which is flash powder, being manufactured in the child's bedroom, and different types of devices, like the one down on the bottom, the red one with the long fuse. That's considered a M style device. That's an illegal explosive, and that is actually a felony to possess. And those powders and everything as well, depending on the context and how we can identify them as explosive powders, those can also be charged as felonies for possession. But the biggest thing is, do not submit these as fireworks or touch them. Call your bomb squad. If they're not available and you just need, hey, how far do I need to be away from this stuff? What is this? Give the arson bomb unit a call, and we'll help out as soon as we can. And we're going to get into more of commercial explosive, IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and how it relates to our job. Because when we're seizing fireworks, you are going to come across illegal explosives and IEDs, and you might not even know it. So that's why it's important to reach out early, reach out often. So an explosive is just something that undergoes a rapid transformation from a solid or liquid, and it releases heat, pressure wave, and a lot of gas. So one of the biggest things that pushes material is the gas. So let's see. And the ones that we see often are the they're called a Fox mixture. So fuel and oxidizer, it's just the ones we see in California are perchlorate mixtures, chlorate or perchlorates, and that's what's in the flash powder. That's probably the most common. So that that item is extremely susceptible to heat, shock, and friction. And the federal government also has a list of explosives to where they cover almost everything you can find, but they keep it open to where, hey, there's new stuff coming out. So it's not all inclusive. And there are some things that, sitting next to each other could be used to make one of the mixtures. So if it looks suspicious, then reach out and say, hey, I have these chemicals on scene. I have this lab equipment, or I have this method going on, or these plans. What do I do? So we have machinery that can look at it, determine what you got. And then classification of explosives. And they're broken down into low explosives and high explosives. So low explosives, the velocity of reaction through the unconsumed material is slower than the speed of sound. So they deflagrate. That's just a fancy word for it. They burn really, really fast. And high explosives detonate. There's a shock wave that travels through the unconsumed material and it's faster than the speed of sound. And the sensitivity to initiation, it's basically like a step up. So primary high explosives are the easiest to detonate. Secondary, next hardest. Tertiary is the hardest. So it's basically like a chain reaction. So let's say you have a huge domino that you want to knock over. So you line up these little items before, so that once the small atom falls and then knocks over the next item, the shock on the one to the tertiary is enough to get that going to sustain the reaction. And low explosives, they're not classified that way. They're not classified by their sensitivity. They're mostly classified by the grain size. Here's some common low explosives. So these are used in reloading, propellants, and to make them dangerous, they usually require confinement. I wouldn't say, I mean, they're explosives, they're inherently dangerous, but more dangerous when they're confined. And why that's important, I'll get to the high explosives later and how they detonate and they don't need confinement. But yeah, you have black powder, smokeless powder, and other different pyrotechnic compositions. So primary high explosives, we mentioned a primary earlier, which was in those party poppers. And these sometimes look like drugs, depending on the context. You might be able to decipher, hey, this is not what I've seen in a normal drug lab, or you've never seen one before. I would say that if you're not sure, or something, the hairs on the back of your neck are sticking up and you think maybe this could be an explosives lab, give your bomb squad a call, give us a call. Whoever answers first gets you as safe as possible to evacuate, or says, oh yeah, I recognize that as a potential explosive such as XYZ. Secondary high explosives are the stuff you normally see in movies, or out and about in military training, if you did that. And the intention for these, they're shelf stable, and you're like C4, you can burn it, you can shoot it with a gun. So people carrying it can do so safely, and they don't really have to worry about it accidentally going off. It actually needs a blasting cap specifically designed to detonate that item to go off. So very effective, very useful, but they need specific um, initiation methods. We see a lot of old dynamite, stuff like that. Tertiary high explosives are the blasting agents. These are used in mining mostly. And they're ammonium nitrate is a fertilizer. So it's the #1 used explosive in the world. So the reason why we don't have very much legislation on ammonium nitrate is because it's used in agriculture. So if we had all these regulations on use, or yeah, even like possession, use, transportation, and we treated it as such, food prices would probably skyrocket if we had more stringent re regulations on ammonium nitrate. So this, you can still get like the stuff that's used in agriculture can be used for explosives. So a lot of times it's stolen from agriculture. So that increases your risk for, theft or illegal uses like bombing or just plain criminal activity. I think it's good to know where your ammonium nitrate facilities are in your jurisdiction as well. And this actually came from the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. And over half of the injuries to first responders are from pyrotechnics. And the #1 call for service for bomb squads in California is for fireworks. And yeah, if you have something, call your nearest bomb squad if you have one. And if you can't get a hold of anybody, call us. I talked about low explosives. Just because it's low explosives and the reaction rate is less than a high explosive, like speed of sound wise, we're talking about hundreds of feet per second. So something burning hundreds of feet per second is enough to hurt you. So I hear a lot that, oh well, they're just fireworks. They're just this, they're just that. And that's why over half of injuries are from pyrotechnics. Is people don't treat them with the level of respect that they deserve. And the stats speak for themselves. Yeah, again, avoid rough handling, generating static, and even radio transmissions around unknown items, because some of these professional fireworks are initiated by electric means. They have these panels that they can be programmed to do a certain sequence. So if you have a dud or misfire aerial shell, then you keying up your police radio, fire radio could be enough to set something off if it's in an unhappy state, like you have wires exposed or anything like that. So just be careful. Don't transmit around unknown items. And if you have to evacuate, do so. Use whatever policy or procedure you have for your department, or if you don't know, just use the ERG for estimating evacuation distances. And those are updated frequently by the FEI. So they look into this stuff and make sure that everything is as safe as possible. They're very generous on their evacuation distances. So I actually saw this in the Sacramento area. It was last year. They were using explosives to blow up ATMs, but they they use those M-type devices. They use whatever they can get their hands on to try to do this stuff. And um, surreptitious manufacturing of explosives, it can go on indefinitely until somebody blows up their house, or there's some other type of first responder intervention. So there's earlier this year there was a Las Vegas Cybertruck bombing, and that involved fuel and fireworks. California riots from at least 2020 to, like I saw a few days ago, using fireworks as weapons. Boston Marathon bombing, like I talked about earlier. And basically, what is an IED? It's an explosive device that is not any of those other things I talked about, like the primary explosive, the secondary, tertiary. Those are usually manufactured like in blasting caps and C4, TNT, where they have a use. So if they're in the right hands, that's not improvised, that's commercially manufactured. So it all depends on how it's employed. So if you have, homemade explosives in a backpack or in a cooler or something like that, and you see switches and wires and stuff like that, and even biological agents, radioactive material. So a lot of agencies have their own means to detect those things. They're more hazardous because we don't know who made them. We don't know their education level. We don't know their experience. So it could be somebody freelancing and they read something off of one of their anarchist cookbooks or something like that, and they leave out an important detail to where that item is now more dangerous than something that's conventional. So you have to treat everything with a heightened level of respect when it comes to a potential IED. So yeah, I mean the components can be anything. You can actually use conventional ordnance, you can use commercial explosives in IEDs, but it's how it's put together and what the targets are. So you can have IEDs made to look like anything. It depends on the imagination of the bomber. But some of the common things you'll have, or they really have to have, are power source, initiator, explosives, and switches. So when I hear people call in suspicious bags or a suspected IED, it's always good to say, hey, what made it suspicious? Like, was it a little lunchbox cooler? Why is that suspicious? Like, oh, well, I saw a little toggle switch on the outside, or it had a little note on it said, die so and so on it. And, that, yeah, I can see that. So just try to get as much information about the item as possible, size, weight, stuff like that. Because a lot of times people will find something, they'll bring it to a station, or it's already been moved. Hey, uh, did you take a picture of it? You brought it here, so how much did it weigh? Stuff like that. I mean, they're not going to want to say that they picked something up, but obviously, if it's in the back of their trunk, then you didn't just get from where it was to where you are. So just use all that information to push out to the responders, like bomb squad. But if they haven't taken a picture or they haven't touched it, don't have them do that. Just if they have, then gather that. So IEDs by California statute are destructive devices. So destructive devices mean other things both in state law and federally. So one of the common ones is a Molotov cocktail. So it's a breakable container, a wick material, and a flammable substance with a flash point of less than 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's important because to charge this in the state level and even federally, you have to articulate your understanding of the device. And that's an easy way where you can reach out to us. Hey, have you had anything like this before? Yeah, probably. But even greater than 50 caliber weapons are considered destructive devices, or the sulfuric acid bombs that kids make. They get bottles and they put drain cleaner and some aluminum foil in there, and they shake it up. Those are considered destructive devices as well. So those are all felonies. And then depending on what you have and where it's employed, then it could be a federal crime as well. So the difference between a destructive device in state law and federal law is, one thing I've seen in different federal jurisdictions is there's no other use for the item than a weapon. So those M style devices that we're talking about, that's just a cardboard tube and the fuse. Those are commonly considered as just fireworks, pretty much for federal prosecution, and they won't charge it as a destructive device, depending on the jurisdiction. But they say, well, that could just be somebody's hobby firework. It's not intended to be a weapon. But you take that same item and you glue nails on it, or you have the consumer fireworks, and then you attach fragmentation to it. There's no other use for that item than a weapon. So it's really important to articulate what you see, where you saw it, when you saw it, and stuff, because all these connections can paint the picture. And a really good one to read up on if you have questions about charging, other than calling us and getting a little briefing or something like that, read the CalCrim jury instructions for each charge you're looking at, because it'll tell you, in order for somebody to be guilty of this, they have to do this. So you go, well, yeah, they did that. Or if you're missing something, you need to ask more questions, then at least it's a framework for you to start. So calling early is probably one of the biggest things that helps. Is the recent prosecution for the UC Berkeley domestic terror incident. We got called and we were there within, I think, an hour or so, and we were able to do evidence collection, scene examination, all that stuff, get that item off to the lab for DNA analysis. And from start to finish in that investigation was 16 days. So June 1st of last year, that firebombing happened at the UC Berkeley police station. And by, I think it was the 16th, we had him in custody, and there was a DNA match. So early response, quality evidence collection, and just making sure that everything is rendered safe and examined by the proper entity. So if you're attacking a place that has federal funding, or like a church or other type of federally protected building, then the evidence collection and transfer to ATF or FBI is critical, so that they can make a device determination and stuff like that to get these people jail time. And if it's another type of destructive device or potential bomb, you want to call the bomb squad, whoever has jurisdiction there. And if you have questions or if nobody's answering the phone, you can also call the arson bomb unit and we'll point you in the right direction or get somebody to you. And these are the destructive device related laws. And from what I've seen is usually jurisdictions don't like to double dip. So like if you're charging for possession of a destructive device, they're not going to hit you with like transporting it. So either it's transporting or it's possession, because it kind of makes sense too. You can't really charge somebody for multiple sections of an arson, because in the law it says you can only charge them for one section. So whether it's 451 A, B, or C, you have to choose one of those because it can't be multiple for the same incident. And then consider talking to your AUSA, which is like a federal prosecutor, because or reach out to the feds, because a lot of times their charges have a lot better teeth than local jurisdictions in terms of mandatory minimums and stuff like that for these types of federal crimes. It's always good to ask, hey, this happened at a school that receives federal funding or attacked a mode of interstate commerce. Can you help? Hopefully, yeah. But you won't know until you ask. And then these are some of the more common fireworks violations. I like to keep between the health and safety code 12700 B. It's actually 1 through 4. And it says specifically what the violation is. So anything over 100 pounds, even with all the packaging, dunnage, stuff like that, is a felony. So whenever you have a pile of fireworks in front of you, don't take it out of the packaging or anything. Just weigh it in the box that it's in. And if you have a gross weight over 100 pounds, you'll be charged with a felony. And that the more weight you got, depending on the 12700, like I said, the fees or the penalties have been doubled. So keeping that packaging and everything for charging is important, because it could take you from a $10,000 fine up to a $100,000 fine to, deal a blow to organized crime and transportation of these explosives in these neighborhoods. So it definitely matters. So again, you can also call us if you have any questions. And then these are some of the PSAs. We did this PSA last year. So that was one important thing we did, because we talk about it a lot, and then people don't really make that distinction of, hey, this is dangerous, it's going to hurt you, until they see something that is a hand or a torso or something like that. It is a violent, gory image of that, but that's the reality of these fireworks incidents. Last year and the year before, there were kids that would come up to us and they're missing their hands. It's tragic and really sad. And they have the strength to come and talk to other people about it, to tell them, hey, this is definitely dangerous. I didn't know because I'm a child. Here's another seizure.
Tons of illegal fireworks seized in the largest fireworks bust in California history. We go live to Fox 11 Susan Harrison on scene in Gardena. What's happening with all of this, Susan? Well, right now everything is quiet. Gardena police say that this seizure of the largest haul of illegal fireworks took place on Friday, but we talked to a lot of the people who work in this industrial park. Nobody really saw anything. Perhaps they didn't really think anything of any activity because they didn't know it was fireworks. And it's surprising when you consider the sheer volume. Take a look. Gardena police released this video of a gigantic cache of illegal fireworks, and this is only 1/4 of the total seizure. The rest was found inside this warehouse. In all, 75 tons, believed to be the largest seizure of illegal fireworks in state history.
A little bit over 153.
So that was investigator Charlie Elder's case. He helped out. And yeah, took him 2 days minimum to transfer all that stuff out of there. This is senior investigator Gouget and I. We helped out San Jose. That was the one where they called us and said, hey, we need some help.
Fire in San Jose storage led authorities to uncover a number of crimes. Police say on June 14th, a storage unit on Blossom Hill Road had a large amount of fireworks that caught fire. The fire was so intense it burned the entire building, including everything inside. Now, 2 weeks into the investigation, San Jose police arrested 2 suspects after seizing 38,000 pounds of illegal fireworks with an estimated street value of $2 million.
Those four that you see in boxes that are all stacked up in front of the storage units were taken out from additional storage units that fortunately did not catch fire.
So for that, we seized around 40,000 pounds, but another 30 or 40,000 pounds went up. In the fire debris, you could see mortar tubes and the cardboard remnants of fireworks in there. So a good amount of it burned up as well. Luckily, nobody was killed in it. So that's my contact information there. I'm investigator Grisham Slonim, and if you send an email to arsonbomb@fire.ca.gov, that goes to all investigators, so that if one of us is off on vacation or military or something like that, everybody can see it, and then we usually get to respond out pretty quickly from there.
Okay, so we will now open it up for questions, and we did have a question in the Q&A box from Ryan Osborne. What do you recommend for getting rid of expired marine signal flares and signaling smoke canisters? Thank you.
All right, thanks for the question. Those items are usually handled by a hazardous waste disposal contract. So city council or somebody can open up or your organization can open up an account with a hazardous waste contractor to get rid of them. And that is the proper way to get rid of them.
Okay, thank you. And then you can stop sharing your screen. We see your desktop.
Okay.
And if you have any questions for attendees, please raise your hand and we will call on you. One more call for questions. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Okay, we will be sharing the recording of this training to all of you directly because you registered for this meeting and training itself in Zoom. We have a whole list in Excel of your emails, but please fill out the sign-in sheet that was put into the chat as well. I will drop it back in there before we completely end. Please also put your information in here just so we have it. And one more call for questions.
Yeah, it looks like you have one that dropped in there.
Let me see. Okay, from Norma. Our agency is very small. What is the smallest quantity that you will pick up of fireworks?
Any amount.
Any amount. Okay. All right, and then the slide deck as well will be shared as a PDF to all of you. So if you have any questions, you have the contact information. I dropped a few links into the chat as well. Chief Gouget or Gershom, do you have anything else to add?
I
No, thank
yeah, I
you.
just wanted to thank everybody. We do have another showing of this same presentation, originally scheduled for May 22nd. That date may be changing. So if we do change that date for the next presentation, we'll get that out. If you have any interested parties that didn't attend this and want to attend the second one, it may be towards the end of May or beginning of June, but we'll get the notifications out as soon as possible. And it looks like you have another hand up.
Nelson, go ahead.
What's the time frame for when we contact them to come out? Is it a day or 2 days or?
Where are you?
South San Francisco.
It depends on what our workload is at the time. So once you submit the seizure, we'll try to work, if it's a large amount, to get it as soon as possible. The main intention of the fireworks seizure form is to prevent agencies from having hundreds or thousands of pounds of fireworks sitting there evidence or in storage. So if it's a small amount, that can go on to where we can schedule out multiple agencies on the same day, like I was talking about my fireworks safari. That is easier on agencies too. They say, well, hey, if you're picking up in South San Francisco and other agencies have some, that we can all meet at your location or you meet at theirs, and we're able to help multiple people at once. And then it cuts down on having to transport this product in multiple different days. So
Hey Gershon, this is Herrera. It's easy. You have can I chime in real quick?
yeah, go ahead.
To the question in South San Francisco, just to confirm, that is San Mateo County, right?
Yes, San Mateo County.
Okay, so you'll fall within the CZU unit, and we have pickup dates and locations for you guys. I'm going to be sending out a memo very soon with those instructions. If you have any questions, you could shoot me a text or at 831-254-1721.
Got it. Thank you. This
Can
was
put that
more
in the chat.
I'm sorry. This was more specific to fireworks seizures. If we come across a handful of fireworks at large quantities.
Well, exactly. Depending on the quantity, we'll pick them up, and then the fire marshal's office will come and pick them up from us.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and if it's like the one San Jose had, where it was around 40,000 pounds, we can go out to you potentially, depending on whatever else is going on. So if we have people available to get in trucks and respond and get that out of your hair as soon as possible, we'll do that. But it all depends on what else is going on as well. So we were able to get out to San Jose in, I think it was like 4 hours. I don't remember exactly, but it was pretty quick from start to finish getting out there.
We do have one more question that was sent over directly. Danielle Thomas asked, I've been looking for OSFM proximate fireworks and outdoor aerial training. Do you know of any that are not listed on the portal?
I don't know of any, but if you send me an email to larsonbaum@fire.ca.gov, I will forward it to the person in our office that takes care of that and hosts that training.
Okay. Arston, go ahead.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So just real quick, when I go back to my guys on patrol, what are some questions you would be helpful for your guys' investigations, or you've seen are helpful to like the person we find who has this? For example, they get called out to suspicious package, whatever, and they find someone claiming ownership or something like that. What are some questions that they should be asking once they have rapport with this person, if they're able to establish it?
Yeah, it's like, hey, where'd you get it? How much did you pay for it? When did you get it? You know, just the normal who, what, where, why, when, how, and yeah, thorough documentation. The pictures are great. If we get sent pictures, and EX numbers on the packaging are really good for tracking down the whoever's importing or selling them. So that's one way we can determine how to stop it in the future, is good questioning like that of, yeah, where'd you get it, who'd you get it from, how much was it? It all helps. And Chief DJ.
Yeah, I was gonna say just good identifying information on whoever it is. So if we're talking about illegal fireworks, it's those if this person has a small amount, it's still important to find out, to drill down more if you can, to find out where it came from, to thoroughly identify this person, so that if it turns into something bigger, we have stuff to move on as far as a criminal investigation. Because a lot of this we're trying to trace back to the large suppliers, both in state and out of state. So any of this information or any of the linkage that we can do from some of these smaller seizures, if we start to see trends of same suppliers and that kind of stuff, then it helps our larger investigation statewide.
Okay, got it.
And where are you out of?
Santa Cruz SO.
Nice. All right.
Okay, and I do see David put something in the chat and an email for collection. Any additional questions? Okay, we do have one in the chat. Who would be the contact person for fireworks in Santa Barbara County?
You're talking to him.
There you go. So it would be Gershom and Chief Gouget. Any other questions?
And I actually have there are some other agencies in Santa Barbara County. They have some. I'm working with our bomb squad to set up a collection date. More than likely with Charlie or Nick down south, but if not, I can do it. So just send me an email to arsonbomb@fire.ca.gov and we can get you on the calendar.
Yeah, and the biggest part of it is one of the reasons we created that link for the seizure report is we do require that report to be completed for us to pick them up, because it helps us manage and do these multiple pickups from agencies. So I can't reiterate enough. If you do get a seizure, no matter what size, is to quickly just fill out that seizure form and have it sent. It'll provide you a receipt. It'll send a PDF. So you'll have a receipt that has been recorded. And on our back end, it maps it statewide so that we can better manage the pickup of this stuff. And then the difference of that between the large seizures is we like to get phone calls directly for the large seizures, so that if it's something that we need to assist with on the criminal side, that we can respond out to your scene, versus transferring it to a local CAL FIRE unit or to some of these adjacent agencies just to be picked up later. The larger seizures we would like to be notified of, so that if you need additional assistance to manage it, kind of like the Gardenia seizure that we had, we can start putting things in place. The Gardenia seizure forced our hand to increase our storage, spend emergency funds and stuff like that. So in order to put that in place, the earlier the notification, the better.
And just for your information, I'm going to share my screen again. I have the fireworks seizure form up here. It's on this presentation for later. It's a QR code. You can find that and print it out, put it on your evidence storage location. If you have patrol or your firefighters coming in with fireworks, just put it on the door. Say, hey, if you have fireworks, just scan this QR code and start this out. So this is what it goes to. It just asks you some questions. And then you get to It's just a one-page thing. So no, you're not CAL FIRE law enforcement. So this is specifically for our CAL FIRE law enforcement unit. So you put your agency name. And then this is where it asks you, is it 1.3? Is it 1.4? Do you have both in there? And then if you have questions about it, it has this little link that will send us an email. So if you're unsure about the DOT category or that there's something sketchy in there, snap some photos of it and send us an email or call. And let's say it's 1.4 fireworks. So it's a consumer fireworks that we see every day, the colorful ones. Say, okay, well, what type of firework is it? If you're in an area where it's zero tolerance and it's just safe and sane fireworks, you can choose safe and sane. The ones that shoot up in the air, go on the ground uncontrolled, they don't have the fire marshal seal on them. Dangerous fireworks. All right. What's the gross weight of it? If you have a scale in your evidence room or the scale in your shop, just put the weight and say we got 25 pounds. Date of seizure, these need to be reported within 72 hours. We understand that that's the law, but in reality, people are busy and they forget sometimes. So just do the best you can with reporting these seizures in a timely manner. The biggest thing is so that you're not sitting on hundreds or thousands of pounds of fireworks for a long time. Because if we go years and years and you're sitting on thousands of pounds of fireworks and you haven't reported to us, that's more of an issue for you more than it is us, because we won't know about it. So you just click the date and then the county where it was seized, and then whatever law violate. If it was a local ordinance that says you can't have even safe and sane fireworks at this time, so you say ordinance number can't spell right now. So anyway, you get the picture. But you put that in, and if you had any arrests, then you put those in. This just helps us satisfy that law that came out last year. They're wanting to know how many injuries happen, how many criminal citations, stuff like that. So the injuries and fires all goes into the CalFIRS, but the arrests and stuff is captured. And then if you do any administrative citations or monetary fines, it's good for us to know that as well. And then the biggest thing is storage location of the seized fireworks. So that's where we know where they are to go pick them up. So that helps for scheduling as well. So if your seizure location was at somebody's house, don't put that. Just put it as your evidence location or magazine or whatever storage. And then here's a way you can drop an image. So you just click and drag. And if you click this, you can, the plus sign, you can add multiple pictures. So if you took pictures of all four sides of boxes or trucks full of them or a house search warrant, they can all be on here. So we have an accurate picture of what we're going to pick up. So, or if something pops out at us right away, we're like, hey, did you notice this? Yeah, this is kind of dangerous. So then if you have any comments or questions, you can put them in the comment box. And then just submitting this, you say you agree to abide by all the instructions, and all the instructions means you read the previous page where it says, I'm not going to put any explosive devices, ammunition, homemade fireworks, chemicals, like stuff that you're sick of having in your evidence locker, like flares, glass and cast fusees. We see a lot of those sometimes. Yeah, I've seen different non fireworks evidence show up in fireworks evidence, so that's embarrassing sometimes when somebody submits that stuff. And if it's damaged or wet, don't submit it either, because that's more of a hazard for you transporting it or storing it. Email us, we'll help you figure it out. If it's just a one-off pickup or a disposal that day, we can do that as well, because we don't want you transporting around loose powders or damaged stuff. And no lighters, matches, or trash in with this stuff, because all that does is it increases costs for us to get rid of it. And a lot of it is just trash anyway, like the mortar tubes. We don't need those a lot of times, or actually at all. So if you're storing fireworks, you can just store the actual unopened boxes as is. We can take it that way. Or if you have individual items, you don't need to keep the boxing if it's already separated or whatever. Just do the best you can, reach out to us early, and we can help you package it safely. So go back to this. Yeah, and then once you do that, this one-page seizure form, then it populates on my screen. Then I can see all of it in the state.
Okay. Thank you, Grisham. And I put the link to the fireworks seizure report in the chat as well. That will also be sent with everything following this training. Does anyone have any additional questions? Okay. Hey, Gershom or Chief Gouget, do you have anything additional to add before we end this training?
Nothing on my end. I just want to thank everybody for participating today.
Yeah, thank you. And reach out if you have any questions. Arson bomb at fire.ca.gov is one of the best ways to reach out to the whole team at once. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.